on 53106. That's the number. Those texts will cost you 30 cents. Friday Night Racing Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie, or you can follow the social media accounts at HRI Racing, and the hashtag is every racing moment. As ever, Johnny Ward is with us wearing his retro throwback Ireland jersey.
This is it, yeah, this is it. Great to have John McConnell on the show, a man in form, and we'll have plenty to talk about today, Ger, hopefully. Yeah, big Gordon Elliott's battalion in the Grand National tomorrow. Is it written in the stars 1 year on?
We'll see. John, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries.
Can I just mention to John before he did a great time of Leopardstown. I texted him the other day. I fancy one of your horses here, and he said, "Jesus, yeah, but don't rule out the other horse." And then a third horse came and beat both of them. So this is the man who knows how to strike.
Thanks, Johnny.
The man in form.
Well, I was on a 22s, Johnny, so I know.
Well, yeah, I'll persevere with Sweet November anyway.
I should get there. Yeah, she'll get there.
So obviously you've got loads of horses in good form at the moment, John.
Yeah, we've had a good run of it, thank God, the last couple of weeks. So it's just about keeping it going now for the summer.
So you're a dual purpose trainer, which means that you never have a day off and you never get a rest. What is there a strain of madness in that, or is it just that's the economics of it? You kind of have to be.
Bit of both, yeah. I do envy the guys who take Dundalk off for the winter and come back in for the turf meetings, but I like being busy anyway, but definitely have to be a touch insane to do this job anyway.
So you were a vet as well. That's even more insane. Is that like you could have just been a nice, steady, handy vet on the fringes of the racing industry, and you're like, no, I've got to train.
Yeah, I always had ambitions to. I was always going to be too heavy to be a jockey. So the next best thing was to train horses, and Michael O'Brien was training right beside us at home, and I would have ridden out for him, and they were during the days of Van Tommen in the Irish National and Shawia winning the Triumph Hurdle, so they were big days and kind of got me hooked then.
What have you a racing background, John, actually?
Not really, Johnny. We would have bred to a kind of a small degree at home at some flat mares, but only like 3 or 4. My dad worked, a job as well. So, and we would have grown up riding ponies and stuff, but not. You wouldn't say I would consider myself an outsider in the game.
You would consider yourself an outsider?
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing? Like,
well, I like it. I think it makes me stand out a little bit, and a lot of my friends will be outside of racing. So it's probably different because I feel there's a lot of people inside the game that are just purely. Don't know there's an outside world where I worked as a vet and stuff like that. So it's I like being kind of like that.
It's very true, and we'll talk about your son Killian and his kind of career maybe outside the race, which I think makes it more of an outlier of the family as well. I do remember Gay Kelloway saying, like, if you go for drinks with racing people and they can't talk about anything other than racing when they're having a drink with you, like, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and I'd be the kind of opposite. I prefer not to talk about racing when I'm relaxing or socialising, So I live and breathe. I love it. Like, I live and breathe it. But when I have downtime, the last thing I want to do is talk about my job.
Look, it's really interesting, and even considering yourself an outsider, do you think that it has an impact on how you train? That, like, you haven't, you didn't grow up on your own gallops or your dad's gallops or your grandfather's gallops, that actually you've come with a different viewpoint and a different approach to how you get your horses fit and peak?
Probably, yeah. I'd probably come with a more theoretical approach. I would have learned a lot about fitness and physiology and stuff in college. So I would have based a lot of it on that more than what I would have seen. Obviously, Michael O'Brien was a great trainer, and I would have learned from him as well. But we basically interval train, so that would have been developed. It took a while for me to kind of get to where I wanted to be. But I'm happy with what we do now. I think people are surprised when they come in and watch us what we do, that how can the horses be fit, but they are.
Will you just explain interval training for us then?
Well, we do short, sharp bits of work. Even with like 3 mile horses, they would only ever do maybe 4 or 5 furlongs at a time, and they'd stop. It would be intense work, and then they're only allowed partially to recover before they do the next kind of session. So it just builds up stamina and aerobic fitness.
What percentage of trainers would train like that?
Listen, there is some people that are doing it for sure, and then there's kind of more old school people that are doing the long steady work. And I don't know if mine's any better than anybody else's, but it suits the way our gallop is, and the riders know how to do it, and so it suits me. But they're definitely, I mean, listen, Martin Pipe would have started way back in the 80s or whatever, so he had a very short gallop, and he, that's the way he did it. So yeah, it works anyway.
And like, is that what's that based on? Getting their heart rate up, getting their heart
rate, yeah, oxygen intake, and then when they're doing their second and third kind of revolutions or whatever, they're doing it sort of partially recovered. So you're not giving them time to completely for the heart rate to come down or the respirate to come down. So they're adapting all the time to working under strain without doing a lot of mileage, if you know what I mean, continuously.
How do you know who's like? I mean, we'll speak about the 3 horses you ran in the handicap at Leverstown, but how do you know when the horse? Oh yeah, he's ready then.
I know just myself from how they're taking it at home. Like those mile horses, Johnny, they'd only do two maybe 4.5 furlong blasts a day or whatever, but from when they come off the gallop how hard they're blowing and how much sweat they have and stuff like that. Like we do bring them away to do like fast bits of work as well, like over 7 or a mile as well. But we wouldn't need to. We could get them fit at home. So
the 4.5 furlong blast, is that like flat out, or is it kind of 90%, or what is it?
I'd say it's probably 90%. It's on the bridle, but I tell the riders not to pull out of them. It also makes the riding of the horse easier because they're not pulling out of them. There's no, there's no problem controlling the horse, I suppose, because they're letting them bowl along at their own pace. They wouldn't push them, but they'd let them, pretty much go as fast as they wanted within control.
I know this stuff intrigues you because there's so many different methods, different methods.
And also just the fact of where this comes from. Like, it's funny too. You're talking about being theoretical, but at the same time, knowing when they're ready is based on look and feel and the sweat.
Well, I mean, you probably could scientifically know that as well. I just haven't got into that.
But it's interesting that like even with your scientific background and your training, you still are ultimately, it's art, as opposed to that final bit of it is still unknowable.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd be very much I don't scope very often horses unless I think there's a problem or unless it's a particularly important kind of race. I like to, because I know it's an invasive thing, and I like, if I'm happy with the horse, I'm happy with the horse. And then of course things like scopes and bloods and all these things, they're not black and white, they're grey. You can have a horse scope kind of mediocre, he could still win the race. Or a horse with a kind of blood that you're a bit dubious about could still win the race. Not every horse that wins every race is 100% at that time. It could, a horse can win a race at 70% if it's good enough.
Can you take us back, right? So you're a kid growing up, right beside you, somebody. It's essentially a theatre of dreams. And when is the decision in your head that becoming a vet is actually going to help you to become a trainer, or is it automatic? Like, while you're becoming a vet, you're actually also trying to become a trainer too. It's just that you realise that it's beneficial to you.
Well, my parents would have been very education minded. Like, there was no way I was going to get away with not going to college. So my brother, who's like 9 years older than me, he had gone into veterinary. So I suppose from 6th class on, he was in veterinary college. So it was always something that was there. And in general, I love animals, and I wanted to do it. But then I suppose working for Michael O'Brien, really kind of focused me on maybe going into training. So I suppose. And
is that weekends and summers? Weekends
and summers, yeah. And I suppose when I got into college, I was always had an eye on training. It was just what way I was going to get into it.
It's not a handy course all the same. Is it 5 years and a bit of extra?
It's 5 years, and I always used to say to people it's hard to get into it, but it's even harder to get out of it. It doesn't get any easier in the course. It's a tough course, so
can you talk about that, John? I'd say, do you ever get to the bottom? Do you ever know everything? Or it must be seriously difficult.
No, it is difficult. I mean, it's time. Sometimes not so much now, but back when I qualified, I wondered how I qualified. How they let me out, but it's there's an awful lot of knowledge there, and I mean, listen, you learn most of it when you get out. If you can get into a good practice, that you have a good mentor, which I did. They'll help you a lot, and it's not all about how clever you are. The theory of it, a lot of it's practical as well. I suppose that's why I'm not, I am practical in the way I train,
I know. I heard you speaking to Racing TV about Killian, how he's probably gonna. We can talk about this in a bit, but he's probably gonna be kind of driven by making money in life and doing well for himself. But when you're marrying or comparing being a vet to being a horse racing trainer, part of that has to be, well, I just want that buzz of training a winner, or that, but because in terms of the pragmatism of training versus veterinary, it's basically fairly open and shut case.
Yeah, well, there are some vets that are trainers, but most of them had backgrounds in racing or fathers who were vets, etc.
A couple of very famous ones, right? Like some of
Dermot Wells, John Ox, to name two anyway. But Killian's the kind of polar opposite to me. I'd probably live in a cardboard box once I could train horses. Money isn't a motivating factor for me in it. I just always felt that I wanted to do it and that I could do it. So that's what motivated me to take the leap and do it full time.
We skipped a generation there. So you finished college, and how soon after that are you able to get your trainer's license? What was the in between period?
I got a restricted license, like a permit license, pretty much straight away. But I had one horse, I was only kind of messing around. I was working as a vet, and it was only probably 6 or 7 years after that. I was based in Monaghan at the time, because Killian, his mum was from Monaghan, and we were up there, and I kind of got a couple of people together to put in a horse, and he ended up winning a graded race in Fairy House. And this is when I had 3 horses or whatever.
Wow.
So it got a horse called Sophist. It was the time of Linnaeus, Johnny. You remember the
Owen Griffin, yeah.
Yeah, he was second to Linnaeus in the maiden hurdle, and then 2 weeks later won the Grade 3 in Fairy House at that December meeting. He's got a horse called Sophist, and we bought him out of German New Zealand for 7,000 or 7,500, I think.
He had a crack straight away, pretty much.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I probably fluked that one, but it got more interest, and it got to the point then where I had to either do it properly or not do it. So I took the plunge.
And so, hang on, are you interval training at that point from the get-go? Is that something you had decided?
Not in Monaghan, because the gallop I had put in was so small. I mean, Monaghan, whoever designed Monaghan didn't design it for training race horses, especially where I was. There was little drumlins everywhere, so the gallop was pretty small, and you couldn't, I wasn't doing it probably the way I wanted to do it, but it was a starting point anyway.
So when does the interval training come into your head that actually, okay, or what is the discovery?
For a couple of years, I moved to the Curragh. I probably moved just as recession, the whole thing collapsed, which isn't great when you're paying 3,500 a month rent on your stables. So we kind of struggled on there for a couple of years, and then I got an offer to move to where I am now, which is near Bettystown Racecourse. And I've been there for the last 9 or 10 years. And it was probably only up here that it's very hard with the Curragh gallops, you've people coming on and off the whole time, and they're great gallops, but they're not your own. You don't get to kind of, do whatever you want on them. So where I am now, I can. So that's probably where I've improved it a little bit, I suppose.
I think if you had like a Drive for Survive series in racing, and say if TG Carr had to do it, TG Carr would have a limited budget, so they decide that there's only so much we can do here, so they'd probably base themselves at the Curragh, and they could have I think it'd be an amazing series because there's so many personalities there, John. But I guess there are pros and cons to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't have moved at a worse time really in terms of financially, and then. I mean, the facilities are brilliant, but it's a very lonely place when you're not doing well, and you're meeting some of the guys. You're meeting people every day, and they've had winners, and you have to go, oh, well done, and you're like sick inside. You know?
At least you said it anyway.
Yeah, it's a tough place, and then but like all these training centres, everybody knows everybody's business as well. So I'm much happier being away from it and have my own place. You know.
Because it's funny, like the trainers in the States that train from the racetrack, it's not normal in a lot of countries that you train. And how feasible or how easy was it for you to get your place near to Stamullen then?
Well, it was a family that owned it, and I had come across them kind of by chance. I put an ad in the Irish Field looking for a yard, and they had contacted me, and it wasn't available at the time. There was somebody in it, and they were trying to get them out of it, etc. And I ended up going to the Curragh, but we always kept in touch. So I got an offer from Mark, who's kind of the business brain of the operation. He asked me to come up and give it a go, and we struggled for a long time.
Probably had a lot of moderate horses, did you?
Moderate horses, and just yeah. I mean, again, being the outsider point, I had no backing really, so it was just trying to get going, and thankfully we've done well in the last 3 or 4 years. But I'm very much, I never get too high about the successes because I know where I started from, And
so what changed then? Is it just a gradual thing where you get to know people? Because a lot of training is networking as well, I suppose.
Yeah, we just gradually, the results improved. We got a good owner from America. He's Irish American, Derek Kieran's, and he's put a lot of money into my yard, and that made the horses. I got a better quality of horse, better results, and it's the results-based game at the end of the day. So that's really helped us grow, I suppose.
And the fact that you do train both jumps and flat, I guess helps when it comes to just giving yourself more opportunity to find good horses or to find horses where you might be able to get value. But it does mean you're always busy. Is there any part of you that would prefer to go in the direction full-time flat, or are you actually wedded to the lifestyle so much and you love it so much that it suits you and your personality?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I was to specialise in either code, I'd have to be very, very secure in myself that I could do it in term financially. And the one thing about this game is there's little or no security in it in terms of if you have a bad year, you can have your numbers very quickly. So I'd have to be very secure that way if I was going to. But I love both. People ask me all the time which do you prefer. I love both. Codes, I love jumping. There's nothing better than being down at a fence and hear the horses come towards it and flick over the birch, or there's nothing better than watching a 2-year-old work for the first time and going, oh wow, I like that, So
how often has that happened?
Very little, actually, but it has happened a couple of times. But
case of you?
Yeah. I mean, the first time he worked, nearly every time he worked, to be honest. We went, and I suppose I was more fluttery because we owned him. So he was very special.
How do you feel about that whole story now? That's one thing that often I do wonder about when a horse leaves the yard, and in your case, I mean, if a horse leaves the yard in kind of slightly dodgy circumstances, goes on and improves 40 pounds, there's no trainer that wants that. Simple as. But obviously, with this was a bit different. Can you just explain what happened there?
Yeah, I picked him up as a yearling, very reasonably priced yearling. He was a very good looking horse, but he was by the wrong sire. Nobody wanted the sire, and he didn't sell at the Goff sales. And I rang up Tara Stud the next evening and said had they still got him. So I went and looked at him and bought him.
Why?
And
Why?
Just liked him.
Why did you?
Well, he was physically a gorgeous horse. Very, very pretty correct horse. Had a lot of presence. Walked well. And I didn't have the money to have both pedigree and confirmation, so I had to pick one or the other. I just liked him, and I thought he was worth a punt. And I mean, if he had been third in the maiden and we got 40 or 50,000 for him, we would have been delighted. So from the very minute he started working, and we knew he was good, and I managed to get him beat first time out, but then he won a maiden very well, and then won a Group 3 at the English Stakes for me. And
he just started off in Bellewstown, the tip in itself. He won it down Royal.
I'm going to blame Shane Foley and Colin Keane for this, because they both told me he was a miler. We started him over like 7.5 in Bellewstown on soft ground, and he led over the road and just got very tired. He'd been keen during the race too, so he then went to win by 4 lengths in Dan Royal, and then he won. We dropped him back again in Trip, and he won the English Stakes. And I mean, that was a dream come true, because obviously he was worth quite a bit of money, and it was great.
So I mentioned my friend Adam Potter, the runner at Dundalk, first time out last Friday, runs a blinder in second or whatever, and like what's that when you own the horse? Then like what was your thought process? Because obviously you are looking at the dollar signs as well. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I've said I'm not money motivated, but I had never really, gotten anything out of the sport at all financially. I was enjoying it, but I didn't own a house or anything like that, So for the horse to go and win a Group 3 and put the price tag he had on him, it was unbelievable, And I was probably more happy for my folks that were relieved that I had, going to have some security rather than for me, because as I said, once I had a cardboard box, I'm happy, I'd
say they were sending you off to college in veterinary school, clicking their heels, going, "That's great, he's set for life," and then you're like, "Actually, I'm going to be a trainer." It's like, oh my god!
Yeah, and especially my mum, she would have been security. So she probably took her a long time to kind of accept that I'm at this now permanently,
But so after winning the Anglesey, do you still it's impossible to value a horse really, because like there's so much that can go wrong, and obviously so much has gone right, but I mean you couldn't necessarily predict he'd be winning 2 Group 1s either. So what's your thought process then at the end of his 2-year-old campaign?
Well, we were always going to sell, because that was that's what we had planned. And we got offered an awful lot of money, and did a deal to go to America, and he failed the vet on x-rays of his knees. Very, very minor blemish on both knees, but the American vets failed him. So then Hong Kong made a similar offer, and he failed a vet in Hong Kong as well, the same knees.
God.
And the annoying thing was, I turned to the vet who took the x-rays, and I said, well, what'll I do with his knees? He'd never been lame or anything, and he said, don't do anything, sure, there's nothing wrong with him. That was quite frustrating. And when he won the other day, I sent Ado a text saying, fair play, and he was the guy that took the gamble. He knew all about that and took the gamble, got the money together, took the gamble on the horse, So we still got very well paid, but it wasn't the money we were going to be getting, but we were delighted.
Because of the failed veterinary test.
Because of the failed veterinary, yeah. I suppose we're standing there, it was our first time in that situation, and we're kind of thinking, well, is he going to train on? Will the knees hold up? So we sort of took the money, and we were delighted. And my feelings when he crossed the line in Dubai, I was delighted for the horse and the connections. Like, I was more gutted because I knew that the question, "Are you gutted about it?" was going to be asked about 50 times afterwards.
How do you feel about it anyway?
Are you gutted?
Yeah. But like for me, I'm not. As I said, I keep saying I'm not money motivated. It didn't bother me. I suppose he's only 10 miles down the road.
He's one of the good guys as well.
Probably prefer Godolphin had him far away. But listen, Ada was there, and he took the plunge, and you have to respect that. So
we've had him.
That one I picked up a dual Group 1 winner for a pittance.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, because we've had Ada on a good bit over the years, and we've kind of seen the situation where he didn't have great owners and now he has really good owners, and he actually said basically he went around the world trying to recruit new owners and put himself out there and do that part of the gig, and you can kind of see the evolution and the benefit of that and the quality of horse that he's got and the ability to find people to take the risk and the opportunity to it. But it does seem like it's an evolution, and that actually, unless you inherit a great yard, that's the business is taking risks. But the best part about this story is that you did take a risk on something that doesn't have a great pedigree, and so that must give you confidence the next time you're buying. Is like, I'm going to either get the pedigree or I'm going to get the confirmation, and you're going to have the confidence of the success and the track record of the success now to buoy you up.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably a once in a lifetime horse, but at the same time, it showed it can be done. So, it's really important to have those kind of fairy tale stories, because, it lets the small person dream. Milton Harris had a winner yesterday. It cost 14,000. Won the Grade 1 in entry, and that's really important that can happen. And you can buy a horse cheap that might turn out to be very special. So, no, it was a brilliant story. I've no regrets whatsoever, even though nobody believes me. But
well, I do actually.
I'm delighted for the horse. I love the horse. I went up to Edo and the dog after, shook his hand, and I hope he goes to be a stallion in Ireland so I can send a mare to him.
It's to me, it's kind of similar to whoever picked up Roy Keane when he was playing for Rockmount / Cove Ramblers. Not very tall. It's hard to say the League of Ireland had a pedigree of producing players, but somebody saw something they liked. Look what they produced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I always loved him from the minute we got him. And then he just kept on improving. And yeah, I mean, we could have sold him after Bellestown when he was third. We got offered quite good money. Good money. Wasn't quite six figures, but near six figures, and we turned it down. And we probably could have sold him after Down Royal as well, and we didn't. So we held out and went for it to try and get the black type, and it worked. So it was brilliant. And the only thing I might change is if I got another one, I might not sell him. So that's the only thing I might do.
Thinly veiled, I kind of have regrets, but no, I have no regrets at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Listen, I'd love to win dual Group 1s. Obviously, but in that instance, finances came first. But I don't think it is.
Well, you're having a brilliant time with it since.
Yeah. We're doing well. And hopefully we can keep it going. But as I said, I never get too above myself, because I know what's around the corner. If you have a bad 6 months.
My Racing Moment is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Share every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow Horse Racing Ireland on social media. Talk to us about theyre then and the Scottish Champion Hurdle. Was that always a target? Was that something you kind of a couple of months back were like plotting a course and going, Scotland, theyre, that's the perfect race for this one?
Well, she was second in it last year, so probably from last year it was the target. But she got quite a nasty injury in it last year. She got a piece of birch went through her tendon just below her fetlock, and she ended up in the veterinary hospital at home straight away at the minute she got off the boat with quite a severe infection in it. And it took her a long time to get over that and a long time to get her back. But her last run before theyre had shown glimmers of her old self. And the handicapper had let us kind of down a few pounds, probably, reflection she hadn't returned to proper form, but we knew that she was getting there, and she did a super bit of work the week before it. So we were going there hopeful, but you never dreamed that you're going to win it.
What's a bit of work for Anna Vanina
then? We have a hill gallop as well as a round gallop, and the hill gallop it's kind of like interval work again, Johnny. They go up it twice. They go up at kind of 3/4 pace the first time, and then they trot straight back down and straight back up again quicker, and it sorts them out now at the top the second time. And she went with a very good bumper horse that we have and laughed at him. So wow. We kind of knew that, we knew that she was well. But I mean, it's all very well done on a sand gallop in a hill in County Meath. It's different going to Grade 2 in theyre and winning. So that was brilliant.
And what happens now for her for the rest of the season?
we might go for the Swinton Hurdle in Haydock. It's a flat track race, left-handed, that she would like. A valuable pot again. People have mentioned the Galway Hurdle. I mean, it is a very, very big pot to go for. But it's a totally different type of race, right-handed, undulating, easy fix hurdles. So it's something to think about. I mean, I would love to go back and win the Scottish champion next year. So that's where I'll be going, essentially. And if she could do that, I'd say she'd be becoming a mummy after that.
Okay, and so a horse that wins the Scottish Champion Hurdle, you haven't even mentioned Cheltenham there as part of her plan, and obviously it was Scotland last year too. So what's the difference between a horse like that and other Cheltenham horses? Is it just difference in quality of the field, and how do you separate those out?
I mean, the Scottish champion is a handicap, so it's not like the champion hurdle, but she ran in the county hurdle in Cheltenham last year, ran really, really well. A bit unlucky in the race. And we could have gone for the county this year, but I didn't want to compromise Ayr. Ayr was coming quite quick after Cheltenham, so I wanted to go to Ayr and try and win that, you know. So I'd probably, since it's worked this year, I'll probably stick to the same routine if we get back there next year and skip Cheltenham. Cheltenham is very, very hard. You know, the race should be running would have 20 runners in it, and it's helter-skelter, and it's just it leaves marks on horses. You'll see a lot of Cheltenham horses get beaten probably in Aintree this week, you know. So if you've got a good pot in Ayr to go for, I'm going to focus on that.
Fair enough. And obviously the Easter Festival at Fairyhouse is coming up, and Punchestown as well. You obviously have loads in the mix for both of those. Is there anything specific that we should be watching out for? Any more 22 to 1 shots?
The horse I'm looking forward to the most would be Bardenstown Lad. He goes to Punchestown for the 3 mile Grade 1 novice hurdle. He was third in the Albert Bartlett in Cheltenham, absolutely flying up the hill. So we'd like to take on Mr. Nice Guy again and have a crack at him in Punchestown. And he's really one to look forward to for chasing next year. He should be a better chaser. So I can't wait to have him out again. And he'd be my main one. I would only have I wouldn't have a lot of top class horses yet. But so I don't like to go to these big meetings unless I think we're going to be competitive.
Right.
We don't just go for the day out, you know. So if we think we have a chance, we'll go. But I wouldn't target a load of horses at it unless I thought it was going to be very competitive, you know.
There was just one last aspect of everything that I wanted to talk to you about. Johnny did a piece recently with young jockeys and apprentices and was talking with Siobhan Rutledge, and she talked about the relationship where you've kind of helped her to get to the level she's at the moment. Is being an outsider in racing, is that kind of a fundamental aspect of how you're going to pay things forward as well, where you're going to make sure that you're helping people to get into the sport and people who are young to the sport to thrive in it?
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I love taking on new people and getting them going. I think my father said to me the other day, I think we've given 7 or 8 jockeys their first winner, which isn't bad for a smallish yard, you know. And I mean, it's all on them. They have to do the work and put in the time and the effort. But if they're good enough and they do that, they'll get a chance with me. So I love bringing them along. I mean, the average age of our staff will be very young, but I like it that way. There's no agendas and everybody knows. Well, I don't even need to be there, to be honest. I could sit at home and watch telly all day and they'd probably run it without me, you know. But I do like that aspect of bringing on the young people.
They know how to celebrate a winner by all accounts as well.
Yeah, well, you know about that, Johnny. Yeah, it was nice to get that winner on Student Day for the man who owned the company keeping. So I think he celebrated long into the night.
Students will be students and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Killian was well behaved and came home at a reasonable time. So
we'll leave it at that.
10,000 students at Leopardstown on a random Wednesday seems pretty good.
Limerick yesterday, I'm getting old because Limerick sounded
Limerick
like my
Limerick
idea.
was even worse or better.
Oh my God, it sounded like it was like being the bang in the middle of a nightclub smoking area with 50,000 people there. But yeah, we were all young once.
Yeah.
There we go.
Old man shakes fist at cloud, Johnny Ward. Grandpa Simpson.
Well, John. I mean, what age were you when Killian was born, John?
Killian was a college baby, so I was like 23. And I mean, he probably defined my path in training as well, because I stuck around in Ireland. I may very well have gone to the UK as an assistant or something if things were different. But I suppose I'm glad he came around now and things have worked out.
And
Lovely.
Yeah, so he's obviously a jockey as well. And is he going to stay a jockey, do you think? Is that in his future?
Well, his weight's very good. Like, he's 21 now, so he's not going to get any heavier, and his weight is very good. He's doing actuarial finance in DCU, so he's a smart kid as well. He'll keep doing that, obviously, but he can have a good. He's finished his lectures now. He can have a good rattle at it this summer, and hopefully get some outside rides. I mean, I'll leave it up to him. He's pretty mature, so. I'd be supportive. I do kind of want him to be an actuary because it means I'll have a good owner for the next 30 years. So we all need that new owner investing, you know.
Of course. And how good is Siobhan Rutledge going to be?
Yeah, she's very good. She was unlucky there in the later part of the spring. She got a ban in Dundalk that put her out for a good few meetings, but she's going to get going now again once the turf has started. And she's got a very good brain and a really hard worker. So she's improved so much since we started with her, you know. So and she's going to continue to. So yeah, I really think she can go all the way.
All right, you've got 3 this weekend, I think. Tonight in Dundalk, Serdotty Sunday, Tramore, Tango Theatre and No Logic, and then No Patience on Sunday in the Curragh.
Yeah, I would not be putting your mortgages on any of these horses. The two in Tramore and the Chase, they need the experience of the Chases. They haven't much experience. Serdotty could run well tonight, but he's still a maiden, and he seems to like to come third or fourth and just stay in that position. So he's ridden by another one of my apprentices, Kiana. She's not long with me, so it'd be great for her to get a win as well. But he's a hard horse to win with. But yeah, I haven't got very much this to get too excited about this weekend. I'll sit back and watch the Grand National tomorrow. All
right, well, enjoy it. John, great to have you with us. It's a brilliant story. Thanks a million for sharing it with us.
Thanks for having me.
That's John McConnell, our guest on Friday Night Racing this evening. And a reminder, My Racing Moment is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Share every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow Horse Racing Ireland on social media. We'll take a quick break. Back after this.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
It's tough at the top. Danny Mullins has gained some ground on Johnny Ward, it says here on my script, thanks to Clan des Obeaux, as the Tote 10 to follow jumps to its conclusion this Saturday at Aintree. The gap is down to 64 points, and with names like John Bond, Edward Stone and Flooring Porter all set to race, it's not over yet. So Johnny's on 644.
Well.
Danny Mullins is on 580.
John Bond won today, I think.
I'm on
my league could be
388. All right. Well, wouldn't that be you'd be Devon Locking it at this point, having been basically home and hose from the start.
Pretty much faded close home. John Bond won today. Danny's a good judge. Big ride on Flooring Porter tomorrow as well.
Tote are rolling out the Tote guarantee at Irish racecourses, meaning Tote customers are guaranteed SP or better on all win bets placed at the races. Tote guarantee will be available to racegoers this weekend at the Curragh and Tramore. To find out more, just ask a member of the Tote staff. I might yet break into that top 23,000, which would be one of the great achievements. The National and the rest of Aintree. So, sorry, Flooring Porter, interesting in the context of the conversation we've just been having there, that some horses do find that Cheltenham takes it out of them. Like John McConnell was saying that.
I don't like Aintree as a punting meeting for that reason. I've just had so many bad experiences of horses just flopping, and everyone talks about, he won the Gold Cup, but people then forget he absolutely bombed at Aintree. So it's not a meeting I'm massively, certainly not. If a horse ran at Cheltenham in general, I'd be a bit wary. John Bond did win today, but Flooring Porter, the two issues were he would have been trained for Cheltenham, and he probably will get taken on for the lead tomorrow. But he's a brilliant jumper. Danny gets on so well with him. Whether you want to be backing him at 7-4 or not, probably not for me.
Right, but you think he's going to win?
No, I mean, I just it could go either way. Like, I mean, Gavin Cromwell is a very good trainer, but he wouldn't have trained him for Aintree. He would have trained him for Cheltenham, and this is
bonus territory.
Territory, yeah. And like, to win 2 stairs hurdles is fantastic, particularly to win it, as you saw, Ger, with all the people in the winners' enclosure that weren't there last year. That was a great day. That's what racing's all about. As John says, a case of you was bought for buttons. Flooring Porter was bought off a Facebook ad for a few grand. They're the stories you want, and it's at Cheltenham. Aintree's, it's like Aintree's. Some people prefer Cheltenham. I haven't been to Aintree. It's not really on my bucket list. I think Cheltenham for me is definitely the creme de la creme. But he might win. It's just, if he disappointed, it wouldn't be amazing either. He did disappoint at Punchestown last year. Okay,
talk to me a bit about the Grand National then. What do you make of this? You were hinting there that Gordon Elliott, it's in the stars that he might win it.
I kind of think it. Like, I'm tipping up Longhouse poet Martin Brassel, who won the race. I think he won it in 2006, I think, and then with number 6 Valverde, and then Gordon won it the following year with Silver Birch. So he won the Grand National even though he hadn't trained a winner in Ireland. So I was just saying to him during the week, I mean, you must be at Aintree, and like almost hardly anyone even knew you. And he ended up winning the National with Silver Birch. Obviously won it twice since with Tiger Roll. I think it's absolutely absurd that Tiger Roll isn't running the race. One of the most ridiculous decisions I've ever seen in racing. And even on the line through Delta Work, who's favourite, it's bonkers. I don't buy the stuff with the handicapper at all. I think Michael O'Leary
threw his toys out of the pram.
I think it was nonsense. Like, I really do. And I have a great time for what Michael has achieved in racing and in business.
But sometimes someone needs to tap you on the shoulder and say no.
Well, also the handicapper. I mean, the handicapper wasn't going to drop him £50 on the basis of him running in wrong races. So the handicapper didn't have an agenda. And Tiger Roll was in the cusp of history and winning 3 Grand Nationals, potentially. And obviously Delta Work is now favourite. There's nothing really between them on Cheltenham form. Yet Tiger Roll, for some spurious welfare reason, not having it at all. So, we'll see what happens. But Delta Work might be the substitute to do that.
Okay, so what, you're not tipping Gordon Elliott horse. You've tipped another horse, but your confidence is low when it comes to the tipping. You're like, there's something written in the stars that's against me. You sound like
it just feels like
Michael O'Leary in the handicapper.
Rachel Blackmore last year, I think, racing really was helped by Millennial Times. Rachel Blackmore winning in the JP colours at Aintree, creating history in the Grand National. Great stuff all over the papers. The Gordon Elliott narrative is completely different. This time last year he was banned, he was vilified, in my view, over the top vilification, even though we probably all got involved at the time in terms of the hysteria of that time and the horse or whatever, that the photograph and so on and so forth. But he served his time, he's come back. He had a very unlucky Cheltenham, 2 winners but a lot of seconds, and lost Ginto horribly in an injury when he was probably going to win. He's 7 runners tomorrow, including Sam Crow. I mean, if Sam Crow were to come back, he was the Great White Hope and win the National.
Sam Crow's not winning the National, is it?
He wasn't putting you off backing him. He said his jumping was unbelievable when he schooled him. He's a smile on his face. If horses can smile, I'm not sure if they can, but he had a proverbial, I'm trying to imagine a horse smiling, but he had a proverbial smile on his face. And he also likes a couple of other horses. I mean, Delta Work is probably the one, but he's 7 runners, so
he's got a good chance.
And I just think, Gordon Elliott goes into I've seen trainers win the Grand National. When Mouse Morris won the Grand National, also for Jigginstown, and he's his son hadn't passed away that long at that time, and the motion of that, Mouse win the Grand National with a horse who hadn't even won a race over fences, David Mullins riding him, who's now retired. I mean, the motion got the better of him. You see trainers shed tears if they win a national. 100% Gordon Elliott will break down if he wins the national tomorrow. I mean, that man has been through first world hell, and I for one, I think a lot of people will be moved by it as well, but who knows.
Okay, so sorry to go back to what you're tipping. What are you tipping?
Sorry, but by the way, Longhouse Poet is gonna Longhouse Poet for. I thought Brian Sheeran put it really nice in the race post during the week when he was on about Martin Brassel. He said, he quoted him and he said, in a voice that could say mass, and that's exactly what Martin Brassel sounds like. Very, very quiet man, brilliant trainer, brilliant target trainer, and Longhouse Poet for me is feasible each way, but I don't think I've ever backed the winner of the national, so just ignore what I say.
Okay, Longhouse Poet around about 14
16 to 1, yeah. And shop around in terms of I think you can get 7 places each way. I mean, it's 40 runners, so yeah, I mean, if you're getting involved in the Masters, you look for your each way value, and same in the national.
Any Second Now is the shortest price as things stand. Is that right?
Yeah, it'd be him or Delta Work.
Yeah.
Any Second Now was unlucky in the race last year. Ran really well. The extra weight is very, very harsh for him to deal with, even though it is what it is. But he definitely has a chance. Ted Walsh knows how to win it as well.
Okay. Anything else from this? The other narratives that when the back page is the picture of the smiling horse that we should have expected this because.
Well, how many national papers will put Gordon front on Sunday? Not that there are that many Sunday papers anymore, but how many, when it would have been Rachel Blackmore, how many of them will put Gordon there if he wins it? It'll be interesting.
She's back on Manila Times?
Yeah, he's just been out of form and obviously top weight. Rachel's had an amazing sort of 13 months. Anything after that is a bonus. But
so you think it's too much?
I couldn't see him win it. Form has been poor since. But the flat is back as well, and the flat has been great narratives on the flat already. John is flying it. The classic trials have been very good. Great summer ahead.
Sam Crow. Average 40 price, but there is an outlier price of 80 to 1 on Sam Crow.
Yeah, I'd love it if Sam Crow. I've a soft spot for the horse, but I'd love it if he won the national for many reasons. I don't really see it myself. I think stamina will be an issue for him, but it's a tough race. It's not the race it was. They've changed it to make it safer, which I think they've done the right thing. It's become a classier race. The fences are easier to jump. I'd probably prefer a horse that's going to be handy and staying out of trouble. And I hope Longhouse Poet ticks those boxes for Martin Brassel.
Alright, Johnny, enjoy.
Thanks, sir.
Good stuff. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball is of course brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. We stream live every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock across all of OTB's social channels, so you can get us on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitter. And then every Friday evening from 8 o'clock we're live and Off the Ball on News Talk. We'll see you next week.
Friday Night Racing
On Off the Ball.
brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.